Morning, everybody. Dave Greco here again, and today I want to tackle how I go about starting skin tones. We've got a lot of messages in the past couple of weeks, and that's probably one of the most requested ideas is just how to start prepping in skin tones and how to give kind of variance to skin tones. So I thought I could start pretty simple. I actually recorded one earlier, and I think I overcomplicated it. So I want to just make this one a little more basic and simple on how you could approach it and what you should be thinking about as you do it. For this drawing right here, I did like a just a sketch outline drawing. You can see right here that there's really nothing behind it. It's just this sketch right here. I kind of just put some darker values behind it, and then something we can start with. And we'll just do like a Caucasian skin tone right here. We can definitely tackle other skins later, but I think the same principles apply on what you should be thinking about and all that stuff. So there's a bunch of different approaches how I will start blocking in skin. I don't think there's one right way. And there's, every artist has different ways that they start doing it, but this is a good way for us to look at it. Sorry, it's early morning here. Got my fresh coffee. Here we go. Hopefully this will this will wake me up for it. All right, I'm gonna try to grab the same brushes that we usually have available to you guys from below. So I'm just gonna use the DG main. So what I'm going to start doing right off the bat is apply some basically local color. What is like the kind of middle ground tone of skin we're looking for. I'm not getting too saturated. I don't want to get too gray. And then to start off, I'm painting below the sketch layer, which is this one right here. I guess I can, let's name these. Just so we know. So that's the sketch layer. We'll call this one the base color, if I could type. And we'll start with this one. So you even tell, like, as I'm blocking this one right here, I might be starting a little too light. Let's just go a little bit darker. And you can be pretty messy with this. We're gonna go over most of this entire thing right here. You can go darker, you can go more all over the skin tone, you can make her more pale, whichever you want. I'm just gonna kind of brush this in. I always go back and forth on how much I like keeping like how much line drawing into the piece, how much I don't, how much am I going to brush over later. So I'm slowly just going to brush all this in. Sometimes I'll do like a tiny bit over the eyes. I think it's nice when you get a little bit of that red in there. And we'll just kind of brush that down a little bit. But we can do that for most of this piece to start off with, right? So if we want to figure out some, quick eye color, we can just throw this in here right underneath. And she's probably actually going to have some darker hair, but I usually, instead of like going black, I'll go with get a good amount of blue in it. And then we can paint all this out later, which would be nice. I think it'd help for this demonstration to have like a good line drawing done. I know a lot of people want to see everything from scratch, but I think going forward, we're going to do some pieces that are totally from scratch, and we can span it across a whole bunch of videos where I'll just paint a piece. Really, we'll just start thinking about it on here, and then I'll talk through my entire process of thinking like where to go, why am I choosing certain shapes, all that type of stuff. So we can do that. That'd be good going forward. I think that's actually a video we may do fairly soon. I have another time-lapse recorded I'm going to answer all your guys' Q&A questions on. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, so here's like a base. Throw in some colors. Not too bad. So one thing we could do here too is, you guys have seen some previous videos, is I do like to do this light and layer thing to get some deep reds in there. But I would be careful with this. I find myself guilty of this too. Sometimes I can oversaturate a piece too early with it. So I think it's just something I would always consider. Like I always do like getting, near the jawbones and the ears and stuff right here. It just adds like a little bit of vibrancy. I know, which is something I'm into doing right now, and we'll keep it going as long as it takes. I'm just kind of brushing a little bit of areas where I maybe don't want the gray and the black of the lines to be too much. Okay. So the next stage, I'm going to go back to this base color. Wow, I called it. Didn't even spell that right. Okay. And I might make a layer above it. And basically I want to start blocking in some shadow areas. Let's grab the same DG main brush. Although sometimes this brush can be a little unruly when doing faces. There's something nice that's about like the smoothness of skin sometimes. And we can use the airbrush at one point, but we just have to go sparingly with it. So we'll go a little more red on it. Really, you're going around. It's pretty subtle right now. Let's zoom in a little bit so you guys. Sometimes I might stay zoomed out too far while working on these. I usually am pretty zoomed out. Now I just have a bunch of like random face references up that I find on Pinterest like usual. Just kind of brushing around these little areas. And with faces and tones, I like to take my time. I think it's important to just have not one solid color around a face, especially when you have those reds in the cheeks and the nose and the lips and different little areas. It's like there's like a warmth to skin and that kind of like blood that runs underneath it, which is what really makes a character feel alive, right? So like when you lose all that warmth and you get more blue and gray, that's like when a person starts looking dead. You get like zombies because they don't have that red and pink tones in their cheek anymore. Like you could move around the piece faster than this if you want. You could, you know, I might blend it a little bit. See where it takes us. Like I think, especially with these cell tones, like you don't want to go like too blotchy. You're gonna want a lot of these, especially you get in the nose area, you can get a little thicker with it. Usually the value of your nose is gonna be a little bit darker. But don't go like too crazy. I mean, some artists really take advantage of how dark they want their nose to be. They really make it into their look, which is cool. If you want to do that, then it's make it work for you. That's great. I want to get a little more pinkness into the lips. Like there might be a little too bubblegum pink right now. We can certainly tone that down. Get a little more desaturated, a little darker. We can start to bring that into these bottom parts of the lip here. And same here, we're gonna bring a little more of that pinkness. It's like you're always feeding off the other colors in the piece, right? Seeing what works, what doesn't. It's constant like color comparison. I think I've talked about that in some other videos. Like maybe we'll bring a little bit of this pink up here. We'll just bring us slowly around. So one thing I want to do, I definitely want to get the curvature of the forehead. So I'm just going to grab the airbrush because I want it to be pretty smooth gradient here. And so we want the highlight to be more towards in the middle, just for a little bit of a feeling if it's coming towards you. So grab here and maybe I'll go a little bit more yellow. And see, I'm really small stepping this. Like I'm barely going up. We'll just do a little bit more here. You know, let's get some of these, like, trying to raise parts of the face forward. Especially like kind of cheekbones, this little undersides areas. I could get some bridge of the nose. But like I said, you always gotta be careful with the airbrush because you can get it really soft and it can start to look too digital. So that's always something I'm thinking about. I like it to brush in some of these shapes initially, but then we'll go back in and get a little more brush strokes and that kind of stuff going on in it. So we'll go back to the DJ main brush. I'm gonna make another layer because, you know, that's what we do around here. We just make a ton of layers, usually unnamed, and so I want some shadow areas under here. I'm gonna get a little loose again. Let's kind of brush it. Sometimes I find if I start slowing down too early, it's almost like I have to wake myself back up, get back into it. Just keep brushing this. This piece definitely has more of like a, you know, line drawing, comic book type of feel. But I think it applies. I think if you kept slowly painting out all the line work, you would get more of a traditional looking painting. So I actually like This kind of goes into the eyes a little bit more than the skin, but that's fine. It's all part of the same face. It's actually like when there's like a little bit of red in the eyes, especially like in the interior. Like you get like a little bit of red in here. We can actually make this a little brighter, get some little pops of it, and we'll slowly kind of paint that out. You know, it's just like around the rims here. And then for the eyes, I actually like to go usually a little cool. I might make a little more blue right here. And it's almost like you're still just rendering out a sphere in their face, right? So let's do some of this. And then, you know, we could always keep going in. I'll pop out some of the contrast and pupils here. That type of stuff. All right, let's go another step forward. We have some darks in here, but we can push them a little bit further in some of these. So we're going to tap that down a bit. We're going to get a little bit darker into the eyelids. You know, we could have a little bit more shape here. This is where it's good to get some more actual brush strokes in and not have it be totally that airbrush. It can start to feel kind of strange. You know, you always go back in as you're working too. Like we'll get a little more eyelashes in on the bottom. We could always clean up more of the sketch too if we wanted. Like sometimes it's black line around the nose where I was trying to figure out a shape for it. Sometimes it's cool. You can let it stay if you want, if you like the look of it, if you're looking for more of that graphic look. Or you can take it out, which is pretty good. All right, I want to get a little bit of underside the cheekbones here. Try to see what other brushes we have in here on this set. We could possibly use, what's this one right here? I haven't used this in a while. Sometimes it's good to just explore with other brushes, see what it gets you. You might get some interesting looks. You know, this one's a little slicey. But then you can always go back in with a soft airbrush. You can cut out a little bit of it, you know. Sometimes you can play with the shapes that a brush might make. It's always kind of nice. I feel like I'm constantly exploring with different brushes lately. Like I feel like if a piece getting stagnant, just try a couple brushes out, see what weird results you could get from it. You never know. Sometimes a brush may really fight with you, and I think that can be a problem. If it's like really kind of messing up a piece, or if it's not really giving you the result you want, like, you know, maybe that's not working on the nose, but it's always worth checking out. All right, let's just go back up to this one right now. Let's just keep going on some of these values. So as you can see, we have a lot of like midtones in the face. We don't have anything close to the highlights. We don't have like our kind of like our deepest shadows that we want, but that's probably a good thing. We want to work them both from the middle, and when we slowly work on a piece, we work outward, outward as we work on our values, and constantly think about where we want our highlights in the piece. And I think one thing to think about too is with a face is, like the rest of a piece, where you want your highlights to be can help influence where the person is looking on a piece as well. Much like the total composition. So it's not like, oh, I have to put a highlight on the nose, I have to put just as much highlight on the chin or the forehead. You know, you are the artist, you can make those decisions on if you want certain highlights in different areas or what you want to be the most important. See, we start to slowly brush in more highlight. I'm not using the airbrush anymore. I'm afraid of it getting too airbrushy. So I'm just going to slowly blend. You guys check out my blending video. I know it's really basic, but it seems to have helped quite a bit of people. Just on how I slowly brush and blend in. So we're just taking certain areas where highlights might be. You know, there's always that nice area right here in the eye. We're just slowly building it up, you know. That's why it's always good to move around the piece. I remember when I was in high school, when I would work on art, I would paint the eye fully, go to the next eye, fully render that, go down to the nose, fully render that, and then, you know, it's almost like you're just hoping you're lucky at the end of the piece that everything looks the way it should, the distances are correct. So the best thing to do, really, is constantly move around the piece. You work on a little bit here, step away from it, look at the entire piece, shift something. That was a lesson I didn't get for a long time. I feel like Maybe times are different now. But I didn't get that lesson early on. It would have helped me a lot when I was, say, like high school or when I was looking to apply in art school. I feel like I didn't learn that till I was in art school, which kind of seems crazy. So same thing, we're still going around. We can obviously put like a little, sometimes your bottom of your nose gets a little bit of bounce light. We get a little more yellow in here. Like I said, this is a little more of a graphic looking piece, but I think it's the same idea as if we were working on something that's more fleshed out or anything. You know, you're slowly just adding color, building a little bit more color to it. Same as highlight here. I do usually like to have like a nice kind of chin highlight. We'll slowly blend this out. It always depends how much you want the chin to be pronounced or not. How much shadow exists underneath this bottom lip. That's important. You know, more shadow underneath here is going to make the lip seem a little fuller. And how much it's sticking out from the bottom. There we go. You know, there's certain areas I always like, you know, especially like these little highlights underneath the, you know, crease of your lips here. You can bring this down. I usually spend a lot of my time just slowly blending this out. I don't have like a lot of like tricks to it. I just sometimes put some music on, zone out. And you're just slowly going around sculpting it, you know, which is pretty relaxing. And sometimes you can have like a lot of build up to the highlights in the nose, or sometimes you keep it pretty simple. So say even for the sketch, I want to get rid of this a little bit. And then what we could do is have a lot of this pretty dark on her nose. We'll kind of build up some of this here. There's a lot of subtleties in it, right? And sometimes it's enough just to have like a nice highlight right in the center. You know, it could kind of work. I think lack of detail is sometimes just as important as how much detail you put in. But I feel like that's something that's possibly you could learn later. Like you figure out what detail to put in, and then as you learn, you slowly step stuff back out. Which is why you see like some artists work, and it's like the less brush strokes they have, but they nail it with less brush strokes is what makes the piece feel so impressive. So yeah, obviously can go over our initial line drawing. If you want to carve some of the stuff out, you can do that. It's actually how I do a lot of my work. For the nostrils, I like to do like a deep red. I don't like to go like black. Sometimes I think like a deep red works really nicely. We can do something like this here. She maybe doesn't need such flaring nostrils, but it is what we have right now. Especially like on female faces, the subtleties in lines can make a big difference. Or guy's face, you can wrinkle it up like crazy. And it's usually like, oh, it still looks like a guy. It's strange, but it's something to be aware of. So depending on what you're going for in your look too, you know. See, I'm slowly just messing with some of these shapes and how they look. Hopefully I don't get too sidetracked for you guys and it's still interesting for you guys to watch. I enjoy doing these parts. These are parts of a painting that I really enjoy. It's like I feel like the overall basis of the piece is working, and I can really just dive into some of these small things. Like I really have some kind of a bizarre shape for these nostrils going, but it doesn't really bother me. Especially for the purposes of what we're going for here. And I do kind of want to clean up at least the top of this upper lip. Especially when it comes to the lip, there's usually a very soft grading into the skin. It's not very hard lined. You know, like I said, it depends if this is a very graphic piece, maybe that's what you want. But there is a softness to the top of it, which is important. I think realizing the form of all this stuff, right? So like your upper lip, how it is curving up into the top and it's not just some flat object. It's really trying to analyze a lot of everything. I think a lot of non-artists don't understand how it can be so exhausting to paint all day because you're constantly making judgment calls and analyzing how things are working. It's your brain can feel exhausted at the end of the day on how much you're actually analyzing everything. So we're just cleaning it up. We're taking this lip, and I want the crease to feel like it's kind of pressing down underneath it. That's right here. Still cleaning. All right. Same thing I think goes for the bottom of this lip here. We'll just slowly blend it out. And this goes with the highlights too. Like you can do a couple strong highlights here. Sometimes I just kind of cut in a little bit. Just kind of has those creases on the lips that you might be looking for. And I think it's good to have a distinction color-wise of where your lip is and all the skin over here. You know, sometimes you can bring this highlight down across it. Like it moves into the lip a little bit. Something you can do, or you could not do that. It's strange. There's so many different ways you could tackle the like curvature of lips and how it all looks. We can see like maybe her lips they could look too pouty, which is like not really what we're going for. Sometimes I could change this right here. Sometimes I get a lot of daylight here, and when I work in the morning in my office, and it's actually makes the Cintiq a little hard to see sometimes. I start getting glare. That's probably why I do most of my work at night. There you go, you can kind of see that. And then one thing we could do too is start getting some color more in the cheeks and the nose, which is generally what I like to do. So let's grab an overlay layer and the soft airbrush. And I want to go pretty red with it, maybe around here. And you're just kind of tapping it real light into these cheeks here. Maybe a little bit into the nose. And sometimes you can get like just a little bit more pop and warmth to it. One thing I've noticed that's throwing me a little bit is we don't have a highlights on top of this area above the lips, which makes our face seem a little weird right now. So let's try to throw some of that in. We can just grab some of our highlights up here. And we can at least find these areas right here. We're going to catch more of our light. It's possible too we have our nose too high. One thing you could do, I'll grab the whole thing, Control Shift C and then Control V. So that's going to copy all your layers that you have. So just the top one, and you can kind of move it around a little bit if you want. We're still just adding a little bit more color on top of here. A little more highlight. Just like so. So the next time lapse I have coming up is another female wood elf, kind of like the last one. I had to do a couple of those. And so you'll be seeing a lot of this same process in the time lapse. That'll probably be a video I release next. And then we may tackle a larger piece and kind of have like a series for it, which I think would be pretty cool. It's like there's a possible I made the top nostrils too large. You can always just go back in and cut around it, which is pretty cool. Kind of see what we want to do. So we're just figuring out a couple more of these highlights here. You know, the same thing's going to happen. We can pop a couple quick highlights in the eyes. Usually I'll go more of like a lighter blue for one of these, but we could pop something in, at least just to make them pop out a little bit. They could be popping out too much right now. What if we, I think it's because we initially kind of painted in a little bit right here. We could darken those up, get something in here. And I always do like to play with where we're popping those highlights. All right. So basically you can just do this same process over and over. You can continually go across the piece, clean it up, add some darker colors. You know, you can see here where a lot of my values are standing color-wise. You can see on this side right here is a little more desaturated. It's the same kind of deal. You can just keep going around, keep cleaning stuff up, finding little areas of interest that you like. You know, I always do like going these like desaturated reds underneath back here. We do something like that. You know, you're free to play with so many colors as you work on a piece, which is great. You know, we'll probably end up painting over a lot of these reds, but we can maybe leave some of these ones. I'm painting behind myself again, aren't I? Blast you, camera. You never know. It's like, wow, it's like, I kind of like these reds back here that kind of might bleed into this blue hair. Maybe we'll keep some of it. We'll just brush around. See, this is what happens. I get sucked into a piece and I just start painting around. There we go. And same with this outline. Like, we can get a little bit more of this red on top of this outline so it's not so thick. And I don't like the sides of my face to be super hard-edged. If you can get like a slight amount of blending into it, it's gonna feel like like it folds back into your neck a little bit more, because you know it's never gonna be hard edged. Like, it stops, then slowly fades back into your neck, right? And so we'll see how dark and all the stuff we want to go. And right now it looks like it exists with this kind of like really thick line underneath the neck, which is maybe not something we want, but something we can always play with. This is what makes painting so much fun, really, right? It's how much you get to explore and figure things out. It's not always like I'm just trying to get, you know, from A to Z as quick as possible with the best result. You know, sometimes you are if you have certain clients and you're under deadline, but the most fun you have is when you can really just start playing with color and, you know, you're just sketching and you're like, let's see what I can do with this piece today. You never know. Same thing, I'm still just kind of slowly blending all these little areas out. You know, I'll do the same thing with a lot of this. I'll bring some of this red, what's going to exist underneath some of these shadows when we do paint out this hair later. You know, bring a lot of these reds that kind of exist on the edges. There's going to be like a type of luminosity. I mean, I don't know if I'm even using the right term, but what I'm going for here. But I want to avoid the fact that the skin looks too gray and dull. But you also don't want the whole thing to be too saturated where it looks like they're glowing, right? It's a lot of like really spending your time to blend in. You can keep tweaking more and more. We'll do a little bit more over here. This will be a little bit of a longer video than the last, but that'd be good. I think I'm still enjoying just kind of working on this, and you guys can see a little bit more as we go. You know, brushing underneath. I don't want areas to look too flat either. And then obviously these get more and more complicated if you start introducing different light sources, right? If you have like a blue light that's rim lighting the side of your face, you can almost see how it would work on my face right now. The light from this back door, how it's hitting right here. That's when you start getting more complicated lighting scenarios, right? On where, so it's like if you think about my face right there, and where it's hitting, you kind of have like this kind of deal happening, right? In the face. And that's when you can really start introducing some other lighting situations. But this one, just as far as skin tones go, can definitely work. Sometimes also, like I want just like a little bit more blending, you can go back to the airbrush sparingly. And I might just kind of dab in a little bit here, right from the edges, just to bring this in real softly. And then I'll take the airbrush and I'll kind of patch some back out. I felt like it went a little too far. That's good. And same thing, I want to grab like a little bit of this right here and punch up the top here so our cheeks feel a little puffier. I don't want them feeling like they're sunken in or anything. Bring some of this color down here. Well, here it goes, guys. This is pretty much like that, a lot back and forth. This is how I tackle a lot of, especially when I start blocking in tones for a face. It's going to be a lot of this process. There's obviously lots of cleanup and different ways we can go about it. There's a lot of like the nose to mouth area that I think needs cleaning and tweaking right now. Also with this stuff, like, so I airbrushed around, you go back in. Best thing to do is go back in with some line and re-clean it up. So not everything is super brushed out. I think that's a really good thing to do. So you get some nice gradients that you want, but you're still going back in, cleaning stuff. Just like this. And we can brush in some of these hair shapes that we liked. Kind of pop in where that ear was. See, I keep thinking I'm going to finish up the video and we just keep going. Getting more of the hard edge lines with so much softness is a good way to balance it. Otherwise, it gets too airbrushed. It's always a balance. All right. So we're probably actually, we'll see how far we take this piece. I think this could be a cool piece. Maybe something that's we'll finish later. Maybe we'll post it up on Instagram later if you guys want to see the final piece. We'll see how far I want to take it. And so if you guys are not following me on Instagram, I do post up a lot of work on there. It's Dave Greco _art is the Instagram address. And also, just a reminder, we do stream on Twitch 2 to 3 times a week painting. It's a lot of fun. We have a great crowd there. Tons of input from people. We do a lot of full illustrations from start to finish. And you can find that over at twitch.tv/DaveGrecoArt. That's always a great time. I stream pretty late at night. It's usually the only opportunity I can. But that's when you can catch me. Hopefully this helped you guys start to apply skin tones into your own work. And you guys have been sending me tons of great stuff that you've been learning from the channel so far. So hopefully this helps a ton. And we'll tackle some more content later on. Thank you guys so much for watching again. If you like this content, feel free to subscribe. It helps me a ton. Post a comment below. You guys are amazing. I'll see you next time. Bye.